Good morning, everybody. It's good to see some faces with being, locked in the house for a while. So it's good to see some different people every now and then for sure. I want to go over, I'm not going to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on detail, but go over some main programs that are available. And I'm sure the vast majority of you have heard of most of these things. And I'm also going to give you some links. And right off the bat, I would say one of the first things you might want to check is the Economic Development Partnership, along with the Greater Mount Airy Chamber of Commerce and the Yadkin Valley Chamber and some other organizations work together to put some information where you could go in one spot and find a lot of different information. And that's part of the Mount Airy Chamber website. And if you want to go right there, it's the Mount Airy Chamber NC or Mount Airy NC chamber.org/COVID19. And if you go to there, that'll take you right to the page. Or even if you just go to the Mount Airy Chamber page, if you scroll down, there's a button there in the middle of the page that you can click and go on there and find information on all of these resources. Also on our page, surryedp.com, you can find some as well. One thing you'll find, there's no shortage of people trying to supply you information. There's a lot out there. The piece of advice I'd give to you is try to go to close to the source as possible and find that information if you can. But we have worked with the Chamber to try to get those sources right on one spot for you to find. Obviously, kind of two aspects here. If you're a personal individual, you've been laid off from work, you have some concerns about that, I would say, make sure you understand what you have available to you as a person. And I would go to the Division of Employment Security, which is des.nc.gov. And you can look up and apply for unemployment insurance there on that page. Now, what I will tell you, in this unprecedented time, everything that we're going to talk about, they're swarmed. They're almost overwhelmed with what's going on. Don't get discouraged. Do the best you can, apply and get your stuff in there the best you can. And if you don't hear from somebody in a day or two, just keep all your information and follow up, because I think last week, North Carolina had 350,000 people apply for unemployment insurance. So it's unprecedented numbers going forward through these programs. But I would check on des.nc.gov just to make sure you understand those things for you. And also I would look at the Family First Coronavirus Response Act and find out about family medical leave, find out about the paid sick leave that businesses are required to give if you're diagnosed with COVID-19 and or if you have to care for somebody that because of COVID-19. But I'd urge you to kind of understand those things. And also, if you're a business, I'd urge you to understand especially the Family First Coronavirus Act, so you can understand what is expected of you as a business. So right out of the gate, do that. And some of that information is on the page that we mentioned earlier with the Chamber in our page. So that's one thing. And then, of course, from a business standpoint, the biggest player right now is the Small Business Administration. Many of you are familiar with that. That's a federal government agency, a relatively small federal government agency. And they've got a couple of programs that have come out in what they call the CARES Act, or the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, if you want to know the whole thing. But that's the name of it. But the two primary programs there are the Paycheck Protection Act, and that lets you as a business get some money to help with your payroll. And part of that loan, up to 75%, not 75%, but part of that loan is forgivable. But you have to apply for that program through your local bank. So if you have a banking relationship, you would have to apply through them. I'm sure many of you have already done that. And again, be patient. Millions and millions of small businesses and businesses everywhere are trying to apply for these programs. And I know it can be frustrating, but keep trying your best, keep trying to apply, keep all the information that you see and record that so you have it. But that Payroll Protection Act is something that I would encourage everybody to apply for from a small business standpoint. It's a pretty low interest loan. The terms aren't that long, but it's a pretty low interest loan, and part of that loan will be a forgivable grant. Your bank can explain that more to you in a lot more detail if you can get to them. Secondly, another program that the Small Business Administration has had for a while, but they've added some things, they've enhanced it with the CARES Act, is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Again, this is a loan. Now, this one you apply directly to the SBA. You don't need a bank partner to do this. But again, what I'd say, and as this and those all of them, there's millions of businesses applying for this. So there's going to be some snags. There's going to be some problems. You know, this legislation was just passed a little over a week ago. So they're still working out a lot of issues to try to get it to run smooth. And as I mentioned earlier, the SBA is a relatively small agency. I think they've got over 3.5 million applications for this already. So just think about trying to go through 3.5 million applications. But the EIDL, or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, I would say and advise every small business to apply for this loan because there is a portion of this loan up to $10,000 that will be a grant. In the application that I'm aware, if you're applying for it, you can check a box to ask for an advance, and that advance can be up to $10,000, and that advance will be forgiven even if you don't accept the loan or don't take out a loan. Now, that advance is probably they say it's going to take 3 to 5 days once your loan paperwork has been processed. But again, there's some time in there, so don't get discouraged if you haven't heard anything. But definitely the PPP, the Payroll Protection Act, or Payroll Protection Plan, and the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, are two of the things that I would definitely go for if I was a small business. Now, if you do apply for EIDL and you get one of those, there's also something called an SBA Express loan. Now, if you get into the application process for the EIDL, it's going to take 8 to 21 days is what the site is saying to determine if you're going to be eligible. The Express loan will get you some money quicker, and they say into 3 to 4 days, if that's true, but that's what they say. That will be part of your proceeds from that bigger loan, and you can get it supposedly a little bit quicker. And then once your EIDL loan comes back, they'll just roll that amount back into the loan. Again, what I would say to you, the best piece of advice right now is utilize your relationship with your existing bank and your banker, and also an accountant if you have that, because there's also some tax things that go along with this. And a lot of everything we're talking about right now are for businesses of 500 people or less. If there's some people on here that are maybe don't qualify for that, most all businesses in Surry County do qualify for that, except for maybe a handful. There are some tax credits for payroll and some other things for you to look at, but go for those, take a look at that, work with your banker and work with your accountant to make sure you understand those and what the long-term tax applications may be. So I would go through and understand all that sort of stuff. Right now, there's also a lot of other resources, and of course, this can be some complicated, long stuff if you're reading through it. And there's a lot of places you can find good summaries for this information. One is the page with the chamber. There's some other pages. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has some good information. The North Carolina Chamber of Commerce has some good information. Capital Associated Industries, if you're an employer, has some good information that they're offering some free services now. That is a membership-based organization, but right now they're opening up some free services for people. So if you want to know anything about average pay for people and what other folks are doing during this time, Capital Associated Industries is probably a good place to look. And then, of course, don't forget our own Small Business Center with Mark Harden at Surry Community College. A lot of these programs, if you look out there on the web, you will find some already recorded webinars. I was just on a webinar right before this one with the SBA going over these programs again. And the other point I make to you, this is a fluid situation. They've just created these laws a little over a week ago. They're still getting guidance from the IRS, Department of Treasury, and other things on some very complicated questions. Some of the questions are, if you're a sole proprietor, can you apply for unemployment insurance and apply for some of these programs? The answer to that is yes, because the programs, the PPP and the EIDL, you apply as a business. But if you're paid through your business as an employee, you can, if you have to stop or cease operations or not working, then you can apply for unemployment insurance as well. So there's a lot of questions like that that are answered by some of these webinars that I would say, hey, go in there and take a look and learn some more and learn as much as you can. But again, don't get frustrated. This is going to be a long process. Think about all the millions of businesses that are out there that are applying for this. Do your best, copy down the information when you go to save or close out. If there's a transaction ID or anything like that, a loan number, write all that stuff down so you have it and keep that, close to you. The other thing I want to talk about outside of all those programs is our business, Surry Economic Development Partnership, the Greater Mount Airy Chamber of Commerce, the Yadkin Valley Chamber of Commerce, the county TDA, and some of the local TDAs banded together to do something called a Surry Shop Small Showcase. And basically what we did, and if there's any small businesses on here, we want you to be involved, is just send us a quick 45-second or less video about your business, what your product is, how to contact you, to order online, curbside pickup, anything like that, and send that video to the chamber, to here at the EDP, and all of our organizations are going to post that on our social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, some have Instagram. It's just an attempt to kind of get more exposure for you guys other than maybe your own Facebook page, which you probably have a lot of followers. But if you can add the chambers, you can add mine, you can add other people's, it's just going to get it more out there. And if you have trouble with the video, if you don't want to do that, just send us a picture with maybe just your information on there, contact, hours of operation. If you have any specials or anything like that, put that on there and we'll post it on there as well. We're just trying to work as a group and do it all at one time and put them all on there, so that when they come out, people will see them, and it just gets more people looking than just maybe at your Facebook or your social media. We'll also be looking to do some things as a group together, a little different from that. I'm working on a gift card program right now where we're going to pay for some gift cards for people if they go and shop and then they post something about the business they bought from. We're going to be giving away gift cards from local companies. So I'm going to be working on that program, talking with Randy about that here later. But just, keep all of that in mind. Don't despair. I mean, we're obviously in very tough times, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. But also, I think there's some good things that can come out of this. And, it really kind of puts back on relationships. Relationship with the chamber, relationship with your bank, relationship with accountants, with your customers, with other organizations that can help you. Go out there and form those relationships. And I think this event will make a lot of those relationships stronger, which I think is important. And hopefully we'll come out better on the other end. And the last thing I'll leave you with, which is important to all of us, is don't forget to fill out the census. The census is a very important thing for Surry County and for our local community. It really lets us know the number of representatives we have, how much school funding we get, how much funding we get for roads, anything you can think of from a government standpoint that uses demographic information that to make a decision comes from the census. So we've got to have as much as our correct information out there as possible.